Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Auntie's webinar, last one for this spring. And the topic for today will be recovery starts even before the holiday, so a relevant and a good topic for this time and age that we are living. Our expert for today is Hanna-Kaisa Ranninen, and before we let her take the stage, I want to remind you also that your microphones are on mute. If you want to share some ideas during the webinar, you are free to use the chat. And if you want to leave us a question that we can then discuss in the end, please use the Q&A section and we will try and leave time for a few questions to be handled. But hey, I think with our time frame in mind, we'll give the stage to our expert. There are people still joining in, and as always, you will all get the recording afterwards automatically to your email, so you can get back to the topic also. But hey, with that, Hanna-Kaisa, stage is yours again, so take it away and we will all get to enjoy this topic.
Thank you, Mikael, and welcome everybody to this webinar today. And talking about recovery and holidays are a very current topic for most of us. But let's go and look at our agenda for a few seconds. So this is kind of how I've divided our half an hour today. So looking at three things, mostly how to kind of organize work before holidays, kind of getting that recovery started already before moving into your vacation mode, and how that helps you in maybe succeeding in your holiday recovery and maybe even getting back to work then after holiday, how to make that a little bit easier. Then we have a very short imagery exercise coming up. So you get to imagine kind of what type of hopes and expectations you have for your holiday at the moment. So just kind of want you to be prepared to do that sort of an exercise today, if that's possible for you where you're at. And then looking thirdly at how we'll ensure recovery during the holiday. So a little tips for that. And then, as Mikael said, we have some time for questions, comments. If you want to share any ideas you kind of come up with, or some kind of wonderful good practices that you have for yourself to ensure recovery, so please share in the chat. So that's wonderful that we can learn from each other as well. Just very shortly about myself, at Auntie, I work as an Auntie professional, so I do client work, I do trainings for organizations, our corporate clients, mostly working with stress management and recovery, a kind of leadership and teamwork, familiar themes for me in my work. My background is in psychology, in performance psychology, sport and exercise psychology, and in business administration. So that's kind of the competence with which I'm talking to you today. But let's get started and let's get started with a few quotes from our Auntie clients. So now, of course, before the holiday, there is this common theme with my clients. We have been talking about it all week with my individual clients as well. Many people feel kind of this hectic pressure before the holidays to get everything done. Many people may also have this feeling that they need to really push themselves extra hard, kind of to earn their holiday. So they don't feel that they have the right to rest and recovery before they have really kind of pushed everything and kind of are really tired. And then that kind of the third example here, what it can lead to, of course, is that then on the first or even the second week of the holiday, you're feeling really kind of tired, and find it hard to disengage, to detach from work thoughts. So what we're looking into today is how to maybe avoid some of this at least. Of course, it's very normal to kind of be tired on your first week of holiday, and maybe some work thoughts creeping up as well. So of course, very human and normal. And you shouldn't be too worried about that, but kind of how to disengage better. How can we prepare already at this time, a few weeks before, to have a really relaxing holiday? But let's get started, and at this point, maybe kind of closing those other tabs and notifications that you may have on hand, just to kind of concentrate for a while for this short webinar exercise you have attended. But firstly, looking at why it's important to prepare for holidays already at work. So we know that kind of maybe organizing the work a little bit leads to better disengagement from work during your holiday, as I was describing with those Auntie client examples. And then by kind of preparing a little bit, we can ensure recovery during the holiday. So we are more detached, more disengaged. Maybe we have acknowledged our hopes and expectations, our stress levels, what type of recovery we need this year. Because of course, for summer holiday, we are not the same as we were last year. We may have differing needs, differing expectations that we did last year. So it's good to kind of learn to acknowledge, and maybe today acknowledge kind of your own resources and challenges. Where are you at? What are kind of your needs for holiday recovery as well? They may be different, how much activity you need, how much downtime you need. And then we also know that doing this preparatory work also leads to then getting back from holiday to make it a little bit smoother. And we have some maybe mental schemes, mental models that we have already created before going on holiday of how we want to get back. So it makes it a little bit easier to kind of accommodate ourselves back to work then after holiday. Because what we talk about with many of my clients is that they kind of work very hard until the last day, and tomorrow they are off for holiday, then kind of shutting the laptop, and then they're kind of wondering why it's very hard to detach from work thoughts and get into the holiday mode. So kind of preparing a preparatory period can help in that. And if this year this kind of comes too fast, so maybe for your next holiday, you can think about already what you can learn from today and how to prepare a little bit better. And I've divided these building blocks for today for us in 3 blocks. So we'll look into how to organize your work before the holiday and kind of how to have kind of planning this transition in good time. So kind of having this maybe few weeks or even a month beforehand that you think about how you want to leave for vacation. Then examining your hopes and expectations, as I said before, what do you want at the moment? What do you need? And also thinking about what type of discussions you maybe need to have at home with people, because people in your family may have differing needs and differing expectations. So what do you need to do to have that autonomy for yourself to get what you also need? What type of negotiation need to happen so that everybody has something that they need and some compromises are maybe made. And then ensuring recovery during the holiday. So are you performing the holiday or are you actually recharging? I think this was something that we talked about after COVID a lot, that people had so many things that they wanted to do or things that they didn't have time to do during kind of their normal weekdays. So then let's pack up everything on the holiday period. And then that starts to feel a little bit overwhelming. So it's good to think about this beforehand, kind of this flow and wave-like movement of activity and then downtime. What is optimal for you? Of course, this is very subjective. But let's get into organizing work. So this preparatory period at work, what can you do? What type of questions can you answer? So of course, it would be good to have some sort of transition time and planning well ahead of time. So maybe a month before, depending on the type of work that you are doing. Here, I also want to acknowledge people who have their own business. So maybe the transition period is a little bit longer or they need to do different type of preparatory work than people who are employed. So just leaving enough room in the last work weeks in the schedule for doing this preparatory work as well. Grouping work, what do I have on my table? What can I get done? What is important to get done? What do I delegate? What do I kind of let go and start again after the holiday, and so on and so on. A very important note about self-compassion here. So kind of it's not possible to get everything 100% ready, and that shouldn't be the goal, but maybe kind of grouping the work in a way that is clear for you. Our mind really likes that we outsource things on a piece of paper or somewhere on a notepad, electronically even, just to have things in order. And then it's easier for our mind to detach from work thoughts and really go into holiday mode. And here is just kind of a categorization of what you can do to prioritize your work. So dividing tasks into different categories. So on the left side, kind of looking at what are the important tasks that I actually need to get done? What are the tasks that are left unfinished, so I need to continue after the holidays? What are the tasks that go to a temp or go to my replacement, or that I can delegate, or I can negotiate more time that I will continue afterwards? So having these very particular categories for each. What are kind of these non-urgent but still important tasks that I won't get finished as of now? So it's the big elephant that I chew every day, but what will I start with when I come back? And then the fifth one as well, what are the non-urgent, not important tasks that I tend to do to procrastinate? I tend to do when I'm stressed, so I don't have to look at the 4 first ones. So kind of identifying those as well, and then trying to kind of allocate time mostly for the four ones, and trying to eliminate the fifth one for that. So this can be something that I don't do the preparatory work as of yet, because I just answer emails or kind of do something else that is easy, but kind of actually not urgent or not important at this time. Then making a plan, so reserving time for this kind of meta work. So you make a plan, what is realistic right now? And here it's important to really think about your resources, your time budget. What is actually sustainably realistic at this time? You can be ambitious, of course, but kind of reserving your kind of battery that you have left before the holiday. So if you feel that from your energy battery you have 70% left, so then maybe realistic plan is not to think about 100% energy and budgeting for that. So really looking at what's realistic time-wise, energy-wise, and so on. Then dividing those big tasks that I was already talking about before, answering these questions, and then always remembering to budget kind of time for the ad hoc. So for the things that come at the last minute, requests, things that go wrong, things that you need to actually take some time for to explore or research, questions that come and go. So kind of budgeting some downtime for that as well, because they will come inevitably anyway. And then recognizing your limits, as I was talking about the realistic plan, and asking for help when needed. So it's always good to remember that the manager is there and their job is to help you in prioritizing the most important tasks right now. So if you're feeling overwhelmed that there is so much to do and I would need to get everything done, so then turning to your manager to help you in kind of defining what is the most important thing right now, what you need to get done, and what are the things that you will then continue afterwards. Then delegation, reorganization of tasks. Is there something a temp would do, a replacement would do, or then even negotiating extra time? So many clients that I work with have this very kind of black and white notion that this is something that I promised to get done, so I need to get it done on the expense of my own health and well-being, no matter what. So then we try to kind of figure out, is there maybe a more, let's say, gray idea that is not so black and white, but more kind of on the spectrum of gray there in between? What could you do? Could you negotiate? Could you ask for extra time? And this is something, of course, that many times I talk with people who own their own business. So they have maybe promised a client something, some consulting work, for instance, and then kind of trying to negotiate some extra time, and many times of course it's successful. Just kind of the courage to start that conversation, and maybe trying to keep in mind that this negotiation has nothing to do with you as a professional or you as a human being or your worth. It's mostly to do with your work role, the tasks at hand. So kind of trying to think about it as another work task, this negotiation process, rather than you being a bad employee or these black and white thoughts that we tend to have when we need to kind of ask for extra time. Good. Then examining your hopes and expectations. So let's start with kind of you getting a few seconds to think about your stressed traffic light at the moment. So where you're at right now, when maybe the summer holidays for many of you are coming. So here we have this Auntie traffic light, and we can think about kind of starting from the bottom. We have good balance of stress and resources. So kind of the idea is not to have any stress, but you feel that you have the challenges kind of to overcome these things. Then in the middle, we have the Auntie phase here, who is kind of acutely challenged, but kind of has resources to manage. So some things that are right now acutely stressful, but still having the feeling that, okay, it will get better. I have hope, I have resources, I have support around me to manage. And then at the top, kind of feeling stressed out, feeling that maybe for a longer time, not having the resources, feeling kind of a little bit overwhelmed in that regard. So just I will shut up for a few seconds so you get to kind of intuitively think about where you're at right now. Good. Hopefully you had some time to kind of think about, mostly people kind of intuitively choose something that feels right. And you can of course think about today in particular, but then maybe on a longer period of time, how you have been feeling for the past few months, for instance, or for the past month perspective as well, to think about this if today is particularly bad, for instance. So then, of course, it's very important to think about kind of what type of a holiday would then kind of recharge your batteries. So if you're there, let's say on the orange, so on the middle, what would get you on green? So kind of on the lower end where there were good balance of resources and challenges. What type of a holiday would you need? And many times when I talk to people, people have kind of many things that they want to do during their holiday. As I said, many things that kind of they feel that are left undone, and kind of many plans and expectations for the perfect holiday. But now let's do a very short kind of mental exercise, thinking about your last summer holiday. And if you have the opportunity, or if you want, you don't have to, you can close your eyes for a minute. It just makes it a little bit easier to kind of reach those mental images when you are not kind of surrounded by any stimuli. Or if you want, or if you have the chance, you can just focus your gaze somewhere kind of low down below where it's easy to not get distracted. And then just take a few breaths, deep breaths, to get concentrated. And then start thinking about your last summer holiday, and try to really concentrate and draw images. What comes up when you think about lovely, wonderful summer holiday memories from your last summer holiday? What type of images come up? Maybe try and reach 3 images that come up for you, and kind of hold on to those for a little while. And now you've maybe reached some images from your last summer holiday, some positive, refreshing, wonderful memories that you hold from previous summer holidays. And now, before you open your eyes, just for a minute still, think about kind of what type of a holiday now this summer would be good for you. What would you need if you had no restrictions? What would you need? What type of a holiday would you create? So this kind of ideal holiday, ideal things to do, I will give you just a few seconds still to think about, kind of reach those mental images of what would it be like, and let those images come to you. You don't have to push them, just kind of let them come to you. And then slowly I invite you to kind of come back to reality, and you can open your eyes slowly. And the idea, at least I didn't get to close my eyes here having the webinar with you, but I also reached some images for myself in the exercise that I remember very fondly. What are the type of things that you actually kind of remember from your past holidays? Are they always very big things? Maybe you notice that they're actually very small moments that come to you that you remember from your past holidays. And when I do this exercise with my clients, many times people just tell me that it's kind of a silence, sitting by the lake, drinking coffee, and just hearing kind of birds chirp there, or something similar. Or maybe it's a lovely trip that you did, but kind of what are the aspects there that were wonderful to you? And there is no kind of right way to have a recharging holiday, but the idea of the exercise is for you to find and reach those images that you remember that are the most kind of recharging. And maybe there is a message there for you for this holiday as well. And kind of thinking about as well kind of the ideal without restrictions holiday. Maybe there's a signal or a message for you as well about your needs at this very moment, now when we're at the cusp of vacation time. But then thank you for participating in a little exercise, and then kind of ensuring recovery, how to do that whilst you're on holiday then. So of course, now we'll go into very kind of detailed, very technical things in a way. So we were talking about organizing your mental space, kind of organizing work beforehand, outsourcing your kind of maybe work thoughts and worrying thoughts on a notepad somehow, so that mind doesn't have to kind of keep rolling those ahead in your head for the whole summer holiday. And then also organizing your physical workspace in a way that it's good for you to come back then in the fall when vacation is over. And kind of turning off your work phone, those notifications, so that there is not kind of these notifications and emails kind of drawing you back into work mode, but kind of not promising availability in your out of office message, but having your replacement temp take care of those things if that's in any way possible. Of course, people have differing life situations in this, so it cannot be black and white rule, but in a way kind of we've had this discussion with many clients that they kind of want to please people, want to be good employees, so they kind of don't have the courage to really be on holiday. So I really invite you to think about this in a serious way. Then on holiday, of course, holiday is meant to be kind of this conscious detachment, and we need kind of a longer period of holiday to every year to have this. But it's good to remember that recovery doesn't happen only on holiday. We cannot rely on summer holiday to keep us recharged. We, of course, need recovery each and every day. But there it's good to think about, maybe for some people it works well to go immediately out of the city or town that they're in, go somewhere else so that they immediately get into holiday mode. So some people think and feel that it's easier to kind of have this transition when they're not in their home, but whatever works for you and whatever are your possibilities. And then it's good to think about also that when we start to recover, our brain starts to recover as well. So kind of creativity, new ideas, problem solving starts to happen. So then it's good to remember that maybe have a notepad or something rather than taking action or kind of sending that email that now I have the solution for this that we were thinking about, rather take notes. So outsource it somewhere, but kind of don't let it pull you back into the work mode in that way. And then when returning to work, having a kind of reverse strategy that we were talking about when preparing to leave from work. So reserving time in the first few weeks. And this is a good idea if you are in charge of your work, mostly if you're in a managerial position, you have a team. So looking at the other people's holidays as well. So maybe not starting a really big demanding project immediately when people come back from holiday, because our mind and our cognitive abilities kind of need this transition time coming back to work and remembering kind of the passwords and things and how does this work and so on. And then for yourself, of course, kind of continuing holiday activities after the holiday as well. So kind of not having this clear stop that this is kind of when all the fun stops, but continuing kind of those maybe summer weekends or evening time when you can still do some fun activities. So it kind of continues still the recovery. But just the main message here, kind of reserving time to adjust back, reserving time for checking those emails and so on. And just kind of leave you with this quote for summer holiday, which I think was very fitting here, kind of to reserve this time for your recharging and your holiday and detachment from work. So I thought this was a wonderful quote to end the webinar with today.
Thank you, Hanna-Kaisa.
Yes, thank you. So if you have any comments, we're happy to answer them now and kind of maybe share your key takeaway if you'd like.
Cool. And we actually can take a few questions in the end. And one question that actually came up is that, okay, what if the holiday period is really, really short?
Yeah.
Because usually we're talking about 4 weeks, but what if it's only like 1 week?
Yeah, well, then I think kind of the preparation period comes more into play. And of course, if somebody is going from holiday already next week, so then maybe even more kind of preparation, or not more, but kind of it's accentuated. So how you kind of prepare, so you get to have that detachment easily when you kind of go on holiday, that you do the prioritization and you kind of look at what do I have, so you can leave those at work and then kind of get back to those unfinished business after the work week. And I was just talking about this with a client of mine who had a very similar situation, and what she was doing was then leaving from home immediately to somewhere else. It doesn't have to be abroad or anywhere, but just kind of having that detachment early in the holiday to kind of have a different mental space altogether. So maybe having something wonderful planned for the very first holiday day or the second day to get your mind off things immediately would be maybe my recommendation.
Cool. Thank you. And another question also, we did that stress traffic light exercise in the beginning. So what if the scenario is that the traffic light is flashing bright red from your previous job, and now you're going on holiday and you have to start with a new job right after this break that you're going to have? So any thoughts on that one?
Well, I think here, of course, it's good that there is a longer period of holiday there. So very important to recharge and recover, and maybe then really seriously and critically think about kind of what are your needs right now. So the exercise that we did, what are the things that would recharge you? What are the things that you need during the holiday? So having that autonomy. And then thinking about this as well, kind of starting the new job, it's always stressful. Even though it's positive stressful, it's still kind of exciting and new things coming up a lot. If there is some negotiation room with the new job to kind of ensure that you have full holidays already starting in a new job, so you wouldn't get into that recovery deficit when you go to a new job. So it's always worth asking if kind of your next holidays will be fully for you. So you will have then your winter holiday and you will have your next full summer holiday, or maybe even negotiating kind of how you start the work. What are the type of things that come up immediately for you once you go to work, and maybe starting the work week for a new job in the middle of the week, so you don't have the full work week immediately ahead of you, but you get to recover during the weekend a little bit. So at least those things come to mind, kind of without knowing the situation for the individual.
Cool. And being mindful of the time, but I want to take this last question still here. So how would you deal with coworkers or stakeholders who still want to push you to close project before the holiday starts, even after you've attempted to explain that, hey, not everything can be done on time?
Yes, this is a very, of course, familiar situation for most of my clients, that there are people. So then I would, of course, talk to, if this is type of a hierarchy in many places, that you have a manager whose job it is to prioritize your tasks. So then you have kind of clear-cut prioritization plan that you can then just kind of be assertive and say, no, this is for after the holiday then. So kind of not starting too much negotiation with those people who try to kind of draw you into those things, but then having kind of somebody behind you, some support with this plan that you have made for this, that this is realistic, this is sustainable. And I think wonderful for the person who is asking, that they try hard to take care of their recovery and well-being, and kind of just stay assertive. It's a good practice, and I know it's hard, of course.
Yes. So thank you for that, and thank you for this really informative half an hour with you, Hanna-Kaisa. I want to leave everyone with the thought that, hey, if you are struggling with something, don't struggle alone. If you have Auntie service available, do take the action of asking for help, because usually, as we say, sometimes you only need just a good long chat with a professional to get a new point of view on the matter. So with that, thank you for this half an hour. Enjoy your day, enjoy your coming holidays, and don't struggle alone if you're having some kind of issues apparent in your life. So for my part, thank you, and see you
everyone.
with our next webinar in fall.